So I grew up in Vietnam. I got my bachelor degree there, and in 2013 I came here in the U.S. and studied English at our school for a couple months, and I started my MBA in 2014 and got it done in 16. So after graduate in 16, I got a job at a wealth management firm in San Diego. I work as a research associate at Harnett Investment Advisors. While working there, I also take the CFA exam. From 17, I took level 1, 18, I took level 2, and 19, I finished level 3, and I have became a CFA charter holder since 2019. So after that, I got a job at Orange County Pension Fund. I worked as an investment analyst. So the pension fund means we manage money of taxpayers in Orange County, and then invest on the Orange County behalf, and then repay the benefits in the future for all the retirees. So just a little bit of disclosure. This presentation is for your informational purpose only. All examples here are just example, hypothetical, and I don't want to give investment advice, but yeah, I'm willing to share what I think, and also everything here is just my personal opinions, and I do not represent my current and former employer, also CFA Institute or CSUSB. So with that, so what is CFA Institute? So in 1947, four financial analyst societies, Boston, Chicago, New York, and Philadelphia, they cooperate for the purpose of promoting the exchange of ideas and supporting the welfare of the profession. So that's when the CFA Institute was formed. It's a global nonprofit organization that provides investment professionals with finance education. So the purpose is to serve all the finance professionals who are seeking investment management related education with knowledge, career development, connection, and inspiration. So it leads the investment profession thinking in the areas of ethics, capital market integrity, and excellency of practice. So why is ethics important? Because the capital market based mostly on trust. If something done something bad to like a client, then the client start losing trust in the market. And also for organizations who use the information they have to take advantage of other market participants, then other people will lose trust in the market too, and it will get more expensive to get finance and get capital to fund your activities. So what is the CFA program? So it's one of the highest distinctions in the investment management professions. Most people agree that the CFA designation is the most widely known and respected qualification for finance and investment professionals. So that doesn't mean any CFA charter holder is better than you. Nobody can claim that. But yeah, people accept that CFA charter holders went through a lot of trainings and experience to qualify for the certificate. So the program will provide you with the expertise and real world skills. It is for everyone. So whether you are a practicing professionals, or you are a student, or you want to switch your careers, or looking to start a career in this field, the CFA program is for you. Because it's low barrier to entry, the cost is minimal. You only pay 2,400 as a starting point to pass all the exams, and you can break in. All the certification or program may require same field degree. For example, if you want to get into medical school, then but you are majoring in business or finance or IT, then you won't be able to get into those school unless you double major. So it demonstrates your expansive knowledge and skills. So the curriculum is updated annually, and all CFA members have access to it. So the knowledge is always fresh, and also they require annual continuous learning credit to qualify. So that's helpful too. You can explore with multiple career paths. You can become a data analyst, a chief investment officer. You can work in a investment bank, or a pension fund, or a sovereign wealth fund, or university endowment. It helps you to stay competitive. So employers at some Wall Street firms like BlackRock, PIMCO, Merrill Lynch, JP Morgan, or Goldman Sachs, most of the time they prefer CFA charter holder, and sometimes they require that to be employed at that firm. So with that, I will stop if anyone has any questions.
I actually have a question for you. When I was speaking to you just before we started your presentation, I had mentioned that, oh, can we say that you have a CFA certification? And you were telling me that no, that it's referred to as a CFA charter holder. Can you provide a bit more information about that?
Oh, so actually our conversation earlier today was if I'm CFA certified, and that is
Okay.
a right way to refer it. They have specific rules to how to reference yourself. I can say I'm a CFA charter holder, or I can say I hold a CFA charter certificate, but I cannot say I'm certified by the CFA Institute. They have set very strict rules for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So how to become a CFA charter holder? So first you have to pass all 3 levels of the CFA exam. The CFA program contains of 3 levels of curriculum, so each with its own exam. Passing the exam for all 3 levels is a requirement to obtain the CFA charter. So I will share my the exam details and my tips later in this presentation. The second requirement is you need to complete the qualified work experience. I don't recall exactly how many years of experience they require, but when I got my charter, I had about 3 years of experience and 1 year of internship experience. And I think the new rule, they allow internship experience too. They count internship experience. So you will need 2 to 3 references letters, and I think one of them has to come from your employer. And then you have to apply to become a charter holder. They will run your background check. Once your application is approved and you have joined the CFA Institute, you will earn the CFA charter, and also it also means that you will pay the annual fees. But most of the time, or all the time, the employer will happy to pay that annual fees for you. Okay, so this is the compensation study by it was conducted by the CFA Institute in 2019. So the data is for 2018. So the total compensation, the median total compensation of a CFA charter holder is about $190,000, but it varies, depends on your experience and your positions and your firm too. Yeah, but if you adjust for inflation from 18 to now it's 22, the numbers is higher. So I can see people with CFA charter, they only work and their total income is just about 80 or 90,000. But I can see billionaires who has charter holders. They are very reputable world-class portfolio manager, and they're billionaires. So on the right-hand side, to be a CFA charter holder, so on each level of the exam, typically, candidates spend about 300 or more hours for each exam. So these study tools, CFA Institute will provide you with their tools and resources. They have online learning ecosystem, practice questions, mock exam, and a discussion board when you can discuss the topics, the lesson with other candidates. So on average, it takes about 4 years to complete the full program. So with the scholarship and discount and early registration, you can finish all 3 levels of the exam for as low as $2,400. That assumes you get the scholarship, which is not hard to get. I think when I first started, I got the scholarship too. It's easy. It's not very difficult. So on average, only 44% of candidates pass each level of the exam. For example, 44% of the candidates pass level 1, and then on level 2, 44% of that previous 44% pass level 2, and then another 44% of those who pass level 2 pass level 3. So it's end up being about 8% of people who start can finish. There are 10 topics in the curriculum. First is ethics. It's about ethical behavior and the role of ethics in professionalism, and how that help the market and the investment industry. The second topic, this is my favorite, quantitative method. So it's about the concepts and techniques used in financial analysis and applied to make investment decision. It's from basic concepts like NVP, which is net present value, IRR calculation, to more complex calculation like statistics, probabilities theory, or quantifying risk. So econs, which is I believe you studied in CSUSB program too. It's something about macro and micro economy, supply demand relationship, economic factors, business cycle, monetary policy and fiscal policy, financial reporting and analysis. So basic financial statements and how alternative accounting methods affect investment statements and how we can adjust and analyze those. So in level 2, you may be asked to use your judgment to adjust the financial statement and analyze the data to make investment decision. Corporate finance. So it's an overview of corporate governance along with a framework for understanding and analyzing corporate governance and stakeholder management. Equity. So basically it's stock. It's the characteristics of equity investments, security markets, and indices. And it's planned how to analyze industries, companies, and equity securities, as well as the use of basic equity valuation models. So when you want to acquire a company, you will apply a lot of this knowledge too. So fixed income, so it's more about yield measurement, risk factors, and valuation measurements. Derivatives, it's something like option, futures, forward, swaps, and etc. etc. Alternative markets, we also call it private markets. It's about hedge funds, private equity, real asset, real estate, and and mm, and recently I think we can assign cryptocurrencies into alternative investments too. Portfolio management and wealth planning. So return and risk management and portfolio planning construction. So we examine the needs of individual and institutional investors along with the range of available investment solutions. So each person or each institution has different level of risk and different level of expected return. For example, with people who early in their career like us, we have very long time horizon, so we can take more risk. But for elderly who's 80 years old or 90 years old, they have a lot of money, but their income is solely based on the investment. So they need to invest very conservatively to protect the assets. Because for us, we have longer time horizon. Whenever things go wrong, we still have time to recover and to reverse. So I would like to share some exam tips. I will start with creating a study plan. I set a deadline for each step, and I would suggest you to set a deadline for each of your study progress too. For example, by X hours, you will need to complete all the reading, and by day Y, you should need to start doing more practice exam rather than still reading the materials. So practice makes perfect. I believe that you should spend more time on doing problem solving rather than spend a lot of time on reading, because there are over 3,500 pages of the materials, and you will lose all your time by reading those materials. So I suggest to go through the materials quickly, read all the examples, and do a lot of practice exams. So keep track of your hours. By that I meant both when studying for the exam and both when in the exam room. Allocate your time wisely. So basically, you shouldn't spend 20% of your available time on a topic that only has 5% weight. But it totally makes sense if you spend 30% of your time on a topic that has 20% weight. Also, it depends on your need, it depends on your strength and your weakness. You can spend more time on topics that you don't feel strong. But yes, I believe 20% of your time on the topic that only has 5% weight is not a wise move. So practice for the exam, like I said, do a lot of practice exam. So my strategy is first I do open book with untimed. I don't time myself. I open the book and I try to solve the problems and try to get the highest score as I can to boost my confidence. And after that step, I went one step further by close book. I only use my cheat sheet and I untime myself. I don't time myself. Yeah, I take as much time as I need to, and I don't use the materials, but I only use my cheat sheet and try to memorize all the materials that I went through already. And then next step, I use it, but I time myself. I limit myself to 3 hours or whatever the exam limit now. I think it's different now. I'm not sure, but yeah, you should limit yourself by that hours. And then you can take one step further um, um, by reflecting, by doing the mock exam. You close your book and you time yourself, just like the actual exam. And then after that, you can redo all the questions that you didn't get them right. And then you can redo all the exam, all the questions, whether you got them right or wrong, just to refresh yourself, to remember more and to boost your confidence. And you know that you can got them right. So bring two calculators, long rings, batteries, and screwdrivers. I saw many candidates in the exam room. They have their batteries and screwdrivers, but sometimes when the calculator is not working, it's maybe not because of the batteries, but something wrong with the calculator itself. And I think it's more time efficient if you just bring two calculators. You can buy another one or borrow from your friends. And if one go wrong, you can quickly switch it and continue on the exam. I don't know about you, but for myself, if I'm stuck in a difficult problem and my calculators went wrong, I may freak out and don't know how to replace the batteries, even though it's very easy. But it's not worth it to take time and replace the batteries when you can quickly swipe it. So if you bring more than two calculators, you better to check the settings of your calculator, because different settings may generate different results. So you should be careful. So be early on the exam day. So I took level 1 and level 2 in a conventional center in Pomona, and the traffic was okay that morning, but in the parking lot, there was a congestion, and it's very confused there. People went different directions and nobody knows where to go, where to park, and where to get the parking permit. And bring your own food. If you have like a sensitive stomach, don't eat something cheesy, because I know that they sell food too in the convention center or at your exam location, but yeah, I think it's better to bring your own food than being in the exam and you have bad stomach and you waste your time go in and out. So during your break time, don't check your answers. I believe break time should be for lunch and rest only. Check your answers. Don't do anything good for you. If your answer were wrong and you found out, you will lose your confidence for the afternoon session. But if you got them right, you only feel relief. Nothing more. It won't boost your confidence. So yeah, I recommend to take those time to rest and refresh for the afternoon session. So people have been saying that you need to get 70% of the questions right to pass the CFA exam. But my suggestion is you don't need to know anything. I'm sorry, you won't need to know everything, and you won't be able to know everything because that's a lot. So my strategy is, if you can get, so assume that we have 100 questions and you get 50 of that right, so you got 50 points. And then for the remaining 50 questions, you make educated guess on 25 questions. By that I mean you can eliminate one question wrong. We only have 3 choices, so you can eliminate one. You only have 2 options. So by basic math, you can get half of them right. So you can get 12.5 points right here. And then the remaining 25 questions, you don't know anything about them, but you can still get a third of them right just by randomly select the answers. So you will end up having 71, and that's enough to pass. And I don't think we even need 70 points. We only need something around 65 to 67. So yeah, don't be so stressful. There's a lot to cover, and you won't be able to know everything. So with that, I will stop. If you have any questions, we can do some examples of the actual exam.
Does anyone have any questions for Duc? So I just have a question. Can you talk to me a little bit about some of the duties and responsibilities of a CFA charter holder as far when it comes to on the job?
So it depends on your job, whether you work at a investment banking or in a pension fund like me. So, but the duties is first and foremost to protect the capital market. We put ethic first because investment professional most of the time have advantage to the market. Like for those analysts who work in investment banking, they know before the market. They can increase a rating on one stock. For example, the analyst at company A, they know that their firm will publish an article that favor Tesla stock, for example, and then that analyst the next day early in the morning he trade in advance before the information is publicly available, so he has advantage over the market, and that is not right. And for analysts who work in a pension fund like me, so I meet with portfolio managers at Wall Street companies many times, but if I have the duties for taxpayers, and if so, I need to select the manager that has strongest returns, that most suitable for the plan, and add the most value to the pension fund. But so one of the managers, they take me out to a fancy restaurant, pay me for a private jet or a fancy Super Bowl ticket, and then I select that fund, that manager for my pension fund, and that is not right. And also CFA charter, we need to prepare, we need to train ourselves, we need to keep up with all the knowledge. That's one of the requirements.
Thank you.
So in this example, if you can guess which is the right answer. Anyone? So in this example, the answer is A, liquidity. So by liquidity, it means that investment assets like stocks, bonds, money market funds, index funds, they are liquidity assets because you can quickly buy and sell without the impact on the value of the asset. The example of illiquid assets is like your house, your car, because if you want to sell your house right away, you may need to sell it at a discount. And it would take like 2 or 3 weeks to complete the transaction. So it has price impact and it has time impact. So it consider a liquid asset. So who can answer this question? You guys can type. I think this topic is covered in school in our MBA program. Yes, you are right. It's the balance sheet. Thanks, Angela. So income statement is where you can see revenue, expenses, net profit, and we use income statement to assess the profitability of a business. And in the balance sheet section, we can see assets, liabilities, and owner equity. We use this to evaluate the financial health of a business. And also cash flow statement. The statement start from the net income and then adjust for non-cash expenses. It consists of cash from operation, cash used in investing, and cash from financing. If you see a business with a very nice, beautiful net profit, you may think that business is attractive and you may buy it, but their cash flow statement, they don't have any cash info from the cash flow statement. They may use some tricks like, for example, you selling subscriptions to your buyers, but your policy allow they can cancel anytime. At the beginning of the year, you record the revenue of $120, but at month two, they cancel it, you only got $10. You don't get the 110 other dollars, but on your net income you still show it. So that's why cash flow statement is important when you can try to justify the net income. So this is more like a quant questions. I believe CSUSB we covered in our finance class too. So anyone, if you can provide me with an answer. Yes, that's right, Angela. I think you passed the exam. That's right, zero.
Yeah, Angela, if you're not already a CFA charter holder, I think you're about ready to take that exam.
Thank you. I really enjoy learning about personal finance. That's all.
If you don't mind, can you explain why you got zero?
Why I got zero?
Yes.
Because it's in between the negative and the positive. It's in between -1 and +1, and I just thought there is no relationship, so zero.
Yes, that's very smart. I call it an educated guess. So with a positive one, for example, you have two variables. I can make a real world example. You have two stocks, Apple and say Microsoft. They are both in tech. I don't think there's no identical perfect -1 or +1, but by +1 is closer to perfect movement. For example, by +1, if Apple stock go up, then we will know that Microsoft stock will go up too, because they have a very strong linear positive relationship. You can look at one stock to predict the movement of the other one. And for -1, if the other way around, one go up and one go down. If you see Apple, for example, if Apple and Coca-Cola relationship is -1, I don't think it's true. It's just an example. If Coca-Cola increased by 10%, you know that Apple will go down by 10%, and you can use that information to make investment decision. So by zero, that means you cannot predict the result of one variable by observing the result of the other one. So it has no linear relationship. So in real world, there's no absolute zero. It's something like 0.1, 0.2, something like that. So this we study in econ. So if anyone can make a guess here, no judgment. Even though I studied in school, the professors at CSUSB taught me, but when I went through the materials at the when studying for the CFA exam, I still forgot a lot of things that I should be able to remember. But yeah, you can make a guess here. So I can also rephrase this question by which actions can be taken by the central bank to boost the economy, to expand the economy, to make the economy booming? Yes, the right answer is B. So by increasing the reserve requirement, Elizabeth, if we increase the reserve requirement, the banks like they need to increase their reserve and they have less money to lend, and so there will be less cash in the economy, so it's harder to fund your activities, and purchase of government bonds. By bond purchase, the central bank can inject cash directly to the economy. By buying bonds, they pay us cash, and then we have more cash to do our activities. We can run our business and make the economy booming. So increasing policy rate. So by increasing interest rate, so borrowing will be less attractive because the interest rate is high. Also, it makes more sense for people to just deposit in the banks and enjoy the high interest rate rather than borrowing at any very expensive cost. So with that, we deposit money back to the bank, so there will be less cash in the market, and it's not an expansion action by the central bank. So B is the correct answer. So C, I actually tell the answer. Yes, it's venture capital. So venture capital is more like startup. Angel investor invest in startup companies. It's very young, early stage. When yeah, and for growth, for buyout, that is more major private equity companies. It's more major companies that haven't been IPO yet, but still private. And buyout, it's something in the middle. It's not as big as buyout, but it's bigger than venture capital, where they have some income. In venture capital, we have most of the time they still in some development phase and don't have a solid income yet. Yes, the right answer is C. And thanks, Angela. I think the exam is just similar to this. Maybe sometimes they phrase the question very confused, but you get it. And I recommend to take the exam early too, when you're still fresh about the knowledge what you study at school. This question. if anyone can guess. Actually, it's A. Yes, it's A. Thanks, everyone. Yes, so systematic risk, there are other names for it. Sometimes we call it undiversifiable risk. That's the name implying. You cannot undiversify it. And also market risk. So thanks to the diversification effect, and the less than one correlation effect that we showed in earlier example, by holding more names in your portfolio, you can reduce the overall specific risk, or yes, overall risk. Like you have 10 names in your portfolio, and specific risk, sometimes we can call it like a management issue risk. You have company A has a scandals, company B has some thing wrong with their operation, but it's not like your entire portfolio. But by holding many names, you can diversify the risk away and make your portfolio more reasonable and more profitable. So I don't recall if we studied it in at CSUSB, but you can, I think you can still guess the answer. Yes, this is B. So passive investment track the benchmark. We track the benchmark very closely, and therefore very low transaction cost. But for active investment, we try to beat the benchmark and generate alpha for investors. So we cannot replicate the benchmark. We cannot hold what is in the S&P 500. We need to change the component, the weight of each holdings, or maybe we can buy something else outside of S&P 500. And a lot of time we need to time the market. For example, when this time period stock market go down, we take advantage by buying more, we time it. That's active investment. And Angela, yes, it's right. The correct answer is B. This is another econ question. If Mexico is running a large current account deficit with Canada, which of the following will most likely to occur? By running a, just my tips, current account deficit means, so this question means Mexico is paying Canada more than what Canada paid Mexico. So we can rephrase it that way. So Angela, okay. Anyone has any other question? Any other choice? It is B. So the current account, by definition, it records the value of exports and imports of both goods and services and international transfer of capital. The current account deficit is a measurement of a country trade where the value of the goods and services it imports exceeds the value of the product it imports. In this case, Mexico import more from Canada than selling to Canada. So they will run an account deficit with Canada, and therefore, so by that they need to use their peso to buy Canadian dollar to pay for those Canadian goods and services. And by selling the peso and buying Canadian dollar, the peso will depreciate in value, relative to the Canadian dollar, which increase in value. When we buy, make a lot of buy, it will increase the value. So this is an ethic question. This is very subjective, not quantifiable. So you can use your judgment to select the right answer here. It's a bit long, so I give you guys 30 minutes or 30 seconds or 1 minute. So this time, TN is correct. The right answer is D. We should reject the invitation. So if we accept the invitation, we go to a house club and have dinner and karaoke. The analyst will, have some bias for that company, because it's just very natural. We're human being. If somebody take us out for dinner, breakfast, and just very naturally we have some bias for them. We think that that's a good person, but in fact it's not a good strategy. It's not good for our profession, because we need to make the best decision for our clients or for our employers. So we should reject all the invitations. But I can rephrase the question differently. If this is another example. If a company invite me to a coffee shop and suggest that everyone pay for themselves to discuss about that company operations, in that case, I believe we need to accept the invitation, because by going to the coffee shop, we pay for ourselves, so it's very fair. We don't take their money or anything. Our decision is not impacted by that decision. Also, by going to the coffee shop, we can learn more about the company. We can earn more, get more information from that person who represent the company, and by getting more information, we can make better investment decision, assuming that they give correct information. So in this case, we need to reject the invitation. So I think that everything I have. If anyone has any questions about the CFA programs, the exams, the scholarship, or the step to become the CFA charter holder, I'm willing to take any questions.
You're welcome to also put questions in the chat, and we'll be happy to address them from there. I really appreciate you giving specific examples, Duc. Just gave a better sense of what to expect on the exam, and also just different perspective shifts, especially that last one.
Yes,
I'm taking Angela to the exam. That's what I'm going to do.
Hello.
Yeah, Angela, I think you're ready.
I don't need a calculator. I just need to take her.
Yes, I believe that CSUSB, we are, as a CSUSB student, we are well prepared for the level 1. I can see a lot of materials in the CFA curriculum will cover at our school. So by taking it early now, you can have a huge advantage. You have your memories is still very fresh, and you don't even need 300 hours. You may need like 150 or 200, and I think it's very beneficial for you to take a test now rather than waiting for a couple of years when you have to probably review everything again. So I believe our school materials help us a lot.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Duc. That was really informative. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, sure. And if you have any questions later, you can feel free to email Molly or me. You can forward it to me, or yeah, I am happy to answer what I can. Oh, so we have a question from Manuel. I have the MBA from CSUSD. Is the CFA worth the money that I will pay? By that you mean the money that you pay for the CFA program or the MBA program? I think it is a very good question. I believe that when I decide to go to attend the CFA program, to participate in the CFA program, I Google this question too. I have MBA, should I take the CFA? My answer is yes, you should take both. It's not it doesn't mean that you take one and you don't take the other one. So my belief is the MBA program is provide us with a very wide range of knowledge from management, supply chain management, accounting, and many marketing, for example. That's my wide, but the CFA it's like a my deep. So I can say the MBA is wider, but the CFA is deeper for those who want to be an investment professional. And I think those two programs you should take both. It's it complete each other, not like you take one and you don't need to take the other one. So that's my question, and I hope that helps. That's my answer.
Thank you for answering that. Well, we are just about at time. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for your time, Duc. We really appreciate it, sharing your expertise on the CFA. And thank you all for attending today. I hope you all have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.